born in Korea, grew up in Honduras, went to college in Grinnell, Iowa, lived a little bit in Spain, DC, and Nicosia. So, wow, it's a little bit about me.
Yay, well, I'm Jennifer Molina, and so mine's a little tricky. So I actually own a creative agency since 2008 when I was in college called J. Molina Creative, and it became actually my way of getting my own gigs at the time to like sustain like my college living. And out of nowhere, a lot of my friends, they're like, hey, I can't find my own gigs, can you help me? And so they're so I have a group of 4 people who are contractors. So J. Molina Creative is an umbrella for, we work with the small business owners, immigrant business owners in the community, Latino community alone, so trying to bring them together with their needs and work with their budgets. But I also am the program manager at Latino Community Fund, and I oversee the Economic Empowerment Initiative. So similar to that, I use a lot of my skills from my personal life into it and work with business owners, young professionals, women empowerment, and kind of follow our mission for LCF.
So I'm Patty Carrion. I'm a business owner, the owner of Utopia Media. My company is not exactly a marketing agency, but I work a lot with marketing agencies. One of the things that we're most proud of, is actually working for, or making sure that we select projects that actually have some social justice, social equity lens. And just like what Hannah was describing, we're pretty conscious about the projects that we work on, especially because most of our target audience is communities that are underserved.
So I'm Nancy, and I'm a marketing associate for Rubica, a cybersecurity startup. Our service is a little bit unique in the fact that we're the only company in the market that provides security for individuals and families. We have our service is an app that you just download onto your devices, Macs, and we block various hacks and things like that. And I'm also the director of marketing for Alpha, the Seattle chapter.
So to get us started, do you guys want to tell us? So to get us started, do you want to tell us why, or so how and why you guys got into marketing?
Should we start from there?
And yes, start with that. Work your way in.
So let's see. Let me get back. I graduated last year in June with a bachelor's in communications, and since I started college, I always had an interest in marketing. And as I was taking these classes, that's how I found even a bigger interest in it. And so I was also involved with Seattle Mess. I don't know if you guys know that organization. It's a nonprofit, and we serve high school students so they can go into STEM-related careers. So I did marketing for them, social media, reaching out to them, like by creating flyers and all these other things. I was also involved with Unidas as a treasurer, which was completely different from marketing, and I didn't really like that side of it. So that's how I became to develop my interest for marketing.
So I forgot actually to mention that my company is, we are a video and audio production company. And that's how we tie into the marketing side of agencies. We, and I talk as we because my husband and I were partners in the company, and we are professional musicians. I've been a musician since I was 7 years old, and so is my husband. And we first started as musicians in the art. However, it later developed into more of we want to do something more beyond just music, and we started doing film, working on short films. And then it changed to starting creating campaigns because so many nonprofits started approaching us, looking into, okay, we want to have this video for a fundraising gala, but this is the kind of stories that we need, and we need someone that is actually very artistic and has more of a storytelling background to do this. We did it, however, we noticed that we also needed not just to think about the storytelling and what the interviews that we were doing, but also about how we were going to, or how this nonprofit was going to market that video as well, because they wanted to upload it to their YouTube and to their Facebook pages. And that's how exactly we started working with some marketing agencies and started seeing how tight it really is, not just thinking about the language of marketing, but also about visuals in marketing.
So I majored in fine arts, and when I came to UW, my intended major was psychology because I love people. Sometimes, every now and then. And then I took a year off. So during that year off, my parents were so mad at me because I'm like, how dare you? But I didn't until I find out what I really wanted to do. So I was like, I want to major in art. Because I studied in Paris when I was younger, so I'm like, this makes sense for me. And my mom was like, that's great, how are you gonna pay your bills? And I'm like, that's a good point too. So I literally started working a lot with the small business owners, and we're talking back in MySpace days, so like, you know, people use MySpace, and you know, before social media management was an actual like job. So helping a lot of like, you know, small business owners, even my parents as well, getting them visible on online. And then from then, I actually started working with like a lot of my friends on nightclubs or managed nightclubs. So I found myself like doing a lot of like advertising things, using my creative skills to making sure that they were getting their products, their business out there. So from that, it really became, I took a step back, and at that time, I got an internship, a marketing internship with Sprint. So I didn't really love the corporate marketing. It just wasn't for me. So I actually ended up deciding to, a really good friend of mine pushed me to say, like, hey, why don't you just get a business license? And I was like, wait, that sounds so complicated. Like, what do you do? What do you mean? So obviously educated myself in a lot of things. So I was like pretty much self-taught. So I started going to the Foster Business School to take workshops, to attend anything that was open to outside of Foster students. I will go and like start trying to take advantage of that. So out of nowhere, I just started really getting really involved with the projects that I was working on, and people started approaching me because they're like, hey, we think that business and art are separate, but they actually go hand in hand. Business owners and creative, they need creatives, and creatives need business. So how can we actually incorporate that? And as a woman, it's like, how can I use being bilingual? How can I use my community and start like pushing that into there? So from there, it really just became into using my photography skills, content writing, and then I learned about SEO. So all these skills that I just kind of went out there and got for myself. But also the most important part was that not only was I helping the small business owners, but I was also helping myself, because as an artist, I had to go ahead and learn how to do my website, learn how to market myself. So it was really interesting too, because even though I work with a lot of small business owners, lately I've been working with a lot of creatives, like reminding them that you're also a business, you're also a brand, your brand is what matters. So that's kind of where everything comes together.
So I was an international student here in the U.S. So 4 years I majored in sociology and Spanish literature. And as an international student, you really need to know what you're going to do next, right? If you want to continue being here in the U.S. So I really love Spanish literature. I love literature in general. So I applied for a master's PhD program, and I ended up getting in with a full ride. So I was like, yay, I get a chance to stay in the U.S. for another 5 years. So I went to Georgetown for my Spanish literature MA PhD. Did the first year, I was focusing on colonial literature, and I was like, this is not for me. Right. I love literature, but I don't love sitting in a classroom talking about the issues that impact our community and writing a paper about it. So I really felt conflicted with myself, like I didn't feel like I was connecting with those that mattered the most to me. So I sat down with my parents and I said, hey, I know that you guys are really proud of me because I'm going to be a professor in the next 4 years, but I'm going to leave all of this behind because it's not me. And my parents are so cool, they said, we're cool with it. Then years later I heard they felt really sick afterward for a couple of weeks, but they didn't show that to me. They were like, we 100% support your decision. So then I moved to Seattle, and then I started doing an inventory, what are my core strengths, right? And what are my passion points? How can I bring all of that together into a career? So I knew I was really great at Spanish, both linguistics and literature. I love creativity. I like entrepreneurship, and I want to work with my community direct, face-to-face. And then I found this ad that it was an Asian American advertising agency looking to hire someone who could help them branch out into the Latino market. And I literally went into the interview and I said, you're not gonna find anyone better. I'm Asian and Latina. Do better than this. So then they say, okay, you're hired. So I started as an intern, and from there on, I grew my career. I worked on Fortune 500 clients, and I really love doing social good work, right? Like, it's great to have ginormous budget, fly first class, go shoot awesome ads, but it wasn't soul fulfilling. I wasn't meeting that one other aspect, which was how do I work with my community. So I have been working with C+C as a sub-consultant in my previous agency. So when I left, C+C said, hey, we're all about the good. We're all about social issues. Come join us. So that's how I got there. And I do want to do a shout out to Melanie, who is in the C+C team. So make sure you do talk to her. She's a rock star. And she can also give you some pointers on how to be in this industry. So, yeah.
Thank you guys. And so before I ask the next question, I want to encourage you guys to also ask questions. This is a panel and it's for you guys to get your Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, get them answered now. There's no better people to ask the questions than them. So anybody any questions? Anybody want to ask anything? And if not, I'll go ahead and ask the next one. Nobody? Okay, I'll ask the next one. But I mean throughout the whole time, if anybody has any questions, I really encourage you guys to do it.
Alright, so like I know that Foster doesn't really adhere much to like marketing. So like how was it for you guys like finding the opportunities in marketing? Like where did you go? Like how did you find that? Like I just want to know like what resources you guys use.
So for me, I'm sorry, I didn't go to Foster school, so I went to the School of Art. But I know for me it was really hard because I had to knock on a lot of doors. So, and I know a lot of people nowadays we expect because everything is online, we really just want to like, hey, well, let's submit an application, send an email. A lot of it was networking. And I think my friends, they make fun of me because like, you're the queen of networking. And I'm like, well, that's because you really have to connect with people. And there's no better way to me to get these opportunities. So even my first internship for Sprint, I actually got it because I was in the store. I've had a Sprint since 2002 or something. I was in the store at that time getting up an issue fix, and I ended up talking to the manager. The manager was like, hey, we're looking for someone who knows the Latino community, who knows Spanish, who does all of this. And they're like, would you like to interview for the position? And I'm like, and I said, well, I'm not a business major. And they're like, that's fine, you don't have to be a business major. You just have to have the interest and you obviously be willing to learn. And I think for me, that's what really opened the doors. And then I literally, same thing, I had an internship in the Sprint. I've actually had contracts for Nike and other 500 Fortune companies that it was to them, it was, and it's different for every company, right? But they are more lenient with saying nowadays, as long as you have your college degree and you have like the interest in it and you have obviously you're eager to learn, they will open the doors, and especially if you go knock on the doors.
I would say that contrary to what they say about using a lot of Facebook, using a lot of Twitter, using a lot of Instagram to grow your brand, yourselves, nothing really happens unless you actually meet with people face to face. That's just the rule. And another thing that I would add is you have to work on finding out what's unique about you and work on it. And whatever makes you unique, make it better. So when you sell yourself, because that's what you're going to be doing, selling yourselves, you really sell it. You really believe in it, that you're unique, and that's the unique point that you're going to sell. I've heard a lot of friends, I didn't have to go through this because I'm a business owner. I didn't have to do any interviews to apply for a job. But I have met several friends who had done it, and they weren't successful in those interviews because they didn't quite understand how the interviews were working, the language that they needed to use, the keywords that they needed to deliver. So work on it. Find out what are the keywords, what are your key strengths, and sell them, and practice a lot before you go on interviews. Practice in front of the mirror.
And then going off of that, I think reaching out to nonprofits, even like with an alpha, like, building your skills there as well. So once you're at the interview, you have like a portfolio with all the things you have done in your college career with nonprofits and other organizations. And, it gives the companies like more interest in you.
I think my fellow colleagues have covered really awesomely the whole spectrum. The one thing I would add to the whole thing is you don't have to be a marketing major to be in marketing. You know, really everything is marketing, right? Your resume is a marketing tool, right? How you present your portfolio, how you write your homework, how you're dressed up today, right? Everything is marketing, right? So don't narrow down like marketing is like an industry and there's a specific way to be. Like it is really in everything that we do. So yeah.
So actually going off of that, you say marketing is in everything we do. Can you kind of give us like a day, like a play-by-play of what your days look like? So like a normal day in Teresa's life or something like in the marketing industry or something?
A normal day, okay.
Or I mean, just just ideas that everybody, you know.
Yeah, so I would say there's no normal days, and Melanie would agree. So I'll give you like a taste of what a day could look like, right? So at Suposi, like our multicultural team, you know, I get in at 8:30. I do a quick skim through all of the emails, and then at 9 o'clock we have a power time where all our multicultural team comes together. We're standing and we're going through what we're going to accomplish that day in the order we're going to do it. And usually the first thing I do after that is I call my clients, right? What client communication needs to happen ASAP? So I'm on the phone, I'm talking to clients, get on the phone, right? Like don't email or text. If you can't solve one thing in 2 emails, pick up the phone, right? Our partner always says emails and text messages are transactional communication. Being in person is effective communication, right? So, you know, I'm on the phone talking to the client, and then it's like, oh, there's an ad campaign, a TV campaign we're doing. Let's look at the copy. So, you know, Melanie and I are there writing copy for the radio spot that's going to go out. And then we're talking about community program and the outreach we're going to do, and then we're looking at, you know, prize distribution for an event outreach we're going to do, and then we're listening to VO auditions to pick the best one, and then you're wrapping the whole day, you know, with, I don't know, what am I missing?
Coffee with the client.
Coffee with a beer with the client, you know, and having a good time. So that could be one day, right? And probably that's like half a day.
I have day by days and night by night. So as I mentioned, my full-time job is actually working for Latino Community Funds. So it's a non-profit organization. So I actually manage Economic Empowerment Initiative. And Economic Empowerment, that's where working with business owners. And usually I do a lot of labor standards, making sure that they are aware of everything. But how marketing ties into that is, here's even today, I went to a business owner because we're going to do a training for them on something. But they're like, hey, I have questions about my social media. I have questions about how do I do an ad, but I don't have money for everything. And we're talking business owners who really, they are, right now the money they have is to keep their doors open, right? So as a nonprofit, like my job is to make sure that I'm providing them with all the resources, connecting them with partners and everything else. I actually have I'm very strict. It's like, oh, well, can I hire you? I'm like, no. If you met me through LCF, I can't work with you because to me it's a conflict of interest and I just can't do that. So what I do is I refer them to other partners, other people who might be able to help them. So that's like my day-to-day on that. My actual JMONA creative staff, I literally have a lot of my friends from college. They're all over the place now. So I have a lot of them who are in Vegas and San Diego. And they're like, hey, I need a new logo for my business. And they'll just email. So for me, especially for that, it's a lot of emails. So because they're out of town. So definitely they'll email me what their needs are. And I'm like, okay, this is a quote. Let's kind of go back and forth, you know, what's your idea and everything. And then at night, when I get home until like 1 a.m. or 2 a.m., I'll work on their projects. And in the morning, they get the email, and then they know they're going to hear from me at some time, like 8 p.m. when I'm done with my actual day or things like this.
Similar to that. Well, if you're thinking about, you know, opening your own agency, having your own business, it requires a lot of discipline. So just keep that seriously.
Time management, yeah.
Time management, because if you think that just because you're your own boss, you get to party whenever you want to, you're dead. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, but I mean, I get to decide when I want to start depending on the amount of projects that we have, of course. I mean, sometimes we have to start at 5 a.m. in the morning to be ready for a promo shoot at 8 in Federal Way. Sometimes I start at 6, I hit the snooze, I start at 7 instead of 6. But it requires a lot of reading of emails and deciding what are the actual kind of projects that I want to pursue. I have a lot of people also reaching out to me and saying, hey, we need this commercial for this community, and I have to decide whether I really want to go for that community, for that client, and it depends on the amount of emails that we exchange, how fast the person replies, he doesn't reply, how fast the follow-up is. I'm like, they take too long. I'm not gonna waste my time. So that's when time management comes. You have to really focus on what are the kind of projects that you want to tackle and what are the kind of projects that you're going to say, I'm sorry, but you have to be realistic, time is money. And you cannot spend so much money just going after someone that is not really committed to their own brand if you're going to produce something for them. And so my day, it varies all the time, but I do have some constants. I do have to eat by 8 a.m. in the morning, my coffee. I have to have lunch at noon, and my dinner at 6. Those don't ever change because it's important to take care of ourselves.
So my days are different as well every day. So we have to keep track of the cyber news constantly because, for example, if you have recently heard about the Equifax, Yahoo data breaches, so we have to create content to bring awareness not only to our clients, but also our prospects and partners. So that's 3 different email campaigns we have to send out, and also for social and our website. So it's 3 different channels. So that's everyday kind of thing. Also managing the website, we do in-house marketing. So designing the website. If the sales team is presenting at a conference, we have to make sure our website is perfect how they want it. So there's those things, metrics as well. Understanding if we add a new page to our website, where did we have more users on there? Was it better to target our audience through social media? Following those metrics is also another thing, yeah.
Can I just add something very quickly? Make sure that you also set time apart for you to continue growing in your knowledge, because every marketing and everything changes extremely quickly. So yes, make sure that you're always reading whatever magazines that you read or whatever social media you like to follow. Make sure that you follow the big brands, the big, looking at what are the marketing campaigns, so you can stay always on top of it.
And so, hearing you guys' day by days, I just kind of want to ask you guys, what's your guys' favorite thing of being in marketing or doing what you guys do? So your favorite, what you guys enjoy the most of it?
Connecting with people, for me.
Yeah, connecting with people, just bringing people together.
I would say bringing new ideas to the team and finding ways to convince our prospects to buy our service. So.
The thing I would say what I love the most is using communication to change the discourse. I think in communication and just marketing and advertising in general, there's not a lot of great representation of other stories in the mainstream or quote unquote currently mainstream. So I see my work as being able to create content and ads and voices that are distinct. So I do really look at it from a social justice, social equity lens. And that's what gets me going every day, knowing that, we're setting a different tone in the discourse that exists out there. So yeah, that drives me.
And then there was a question in the audience.
I have a question. So with the changes in marketing and technology, how are you guys staying ahead of the changes? And then the second question is, forward thinking, what are you guys doing to, shape the market?
It's a really good question.
It is.
Yeah. Alrighty. Okay, so that's a really great question. There's a couple things that we do at C+C. So I will tackle that in multiple levels. The first level is that we have a very unique way of approaching marketing. So we approach it from the level of social marketing, not to be confused with social media marketing. Social marketing is using scientific social principles to create advertising campaigns with the ultimate goal of changing behaviors, right? And I'm in an industry where it's not about selling burgers or sugary drinks, right? We're here to encourage people to recycle better or, not waste food. So these are all behavioral adoption, right? So having that social marketing framework from which we develop marketing makes us very unique. So those core principles are applicable in multiple platforms, right? So even with the advances in technology and different ways of marketing, that core principle of how we approach our projects are constant. So that's one piece. The other piece is, it's a people business, right? So our company highly values people, right? We're constantly hiring the best of the best, right? So we have people that are experts in, the newest platform, email marketing, digital marketing, social marketing. We have people that have expertise in that. And then you combine with people who have social marketing expert, you combine that with the team that I manage, which is the multicultural, how do you add cultural relevancy and nuance? So then you start building this really cohesive, integrated campaigns. So that's how we tackle the new, advances in technology, but also knowing that we have a very clear path on how we approach our projects.
In my case, I actually work with, so I have 5 people right now that I work with, and they're not employees, they're actually just contractors, and they don't have a business license or anything, so that's kind of why they come to me. So I have somebody who focuses on SEO, a web developer, content writing, email marketing, social media. So that right there to me, even though I can do a lot of that, to me that's what they focus on. They're the experts on that. So I come to them when I need help with something. My web developer, I can do a redesign, but without them I wouldn't be able to know the steps. So I actually rely on them to the morning blogs or reading because there's so much to cover. So I wait for them to actually tell me, hey, you should be checking out this blog, you should be checking out this article, this is what's going on. Then for my clients, what I actually like to do is I approach them and let them know, hey, I'm not an expert when it comes to web design, but I do have someone who might be able to actually have your answers for that. So I try to bring them together, and so it is, like I said, a people industry. Now, I also try to be very intentional, just because I have someone who does web design, it might not be the best fit for the project that the person is working for. So I always try to let them know, hey, if you can have a phone call, if you're in the same area, then grab coffee. And before you even get into business together, see if you are compatible, see if you can actually have a great conversation together, because the goal is that your ideas and our ideas, we can combine them and actually do something that is great for your business.
In our case, or in my case, we just watch a lot of videos, go to a lot of conferences to stay on top of the technology that is needed for video and for film. Thinking about low cost, whatever the client might be able to pay, and also for ourselves. When it comes to trying to change the narrative in marketing, I guess for myself it's a little easier, just because I usually just say, this is your marketing to me. I always tell to the client, think I'm an immigrant, I'm a person of color, I'm a woman, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I don't know, I have so many labels. It's hard to think about all of them, but I just think about, if this is the community that you're targeting, then I have to like this, and I have to be comfortable with whatever I'm going to deliver to you, client. If I am not comfortable with it, I'm just not going to give it to you. I'm not going to sell it to you. But I use a lot of my own experiences to talk to the client and to convince the client what is important, to be so conscious of the language that we are using, the images that we're using, the colors that we're using, the music that we're using. Because as an artist, I'm also very aware of all of those aspects of a campaign.
So I think in my case, we constantly have to be being able to adapt to new platforms. And when I talk about platforms, I mean the services we use to create email campaigns, sales workflow for our sales team. Because we are a cybersecurity firm, we have to make sure we are secure ourselves. We don't get hacked, so that won't look good if someone, if my client gets hacked. So we have to constantly be changing platforms. So that's one thing. Since cybersecurity is also a new thing out there, one of our initiatives from the company is to hire diverse candidates to help us think beyond different hacking strategies.
Cool. Thank you. And then so, I guess,
She has another question.
there's another question?
So I keep on hearing you guys talking about networking, talking to clients, getting in contact. I know at Alva, we always are promoting networking and telling all the students, hey, networking is a very integral part of business. Do you think you guys could talk about why it's so important, especially in your field, and how do you stay in contact with your clients?
So what I will share is some tips on making networking effective. I think that's a really great question. And the only reason why I can share this is because I used to suck at it. So I know all the things that don't work. And what I've learned by doing a lot of it and sucking is that it's not about talking at networking. And oftentimes when you first start networking, you feel like you have to talk and you have to like make sure you're known and that you're connecting. But what I really learned is that it has nothing to do with talking. It has a lot to do with listening. And so being prepared to really ask poignant questions. And what I do when I go to networking is identify what's your pain point, right? Or what are your, dream campaigns that you want to work on, right? And so now I have like a library of what people really want to do or what they're interested in. So when those opportunities come, I just connect those, right? And create a campaign out of it. So an example is like, I love literature, right? So I was, networking at this organization called Seattle Escribe, which is a collective of writers in the region. And what I heard from them in that networking is that they really want to share their art, right, their writing. And then my client is, Waste Management, who works on recycling, and they really want to encourage the Latino community to recycle, right? So I was like, oh, what if we combine those two things? Writers create beautiful odes to recycling, and we create a campaign out of it, right? So from that networking of just listening to what people really want to do and what their passion points are, and then connecting those into a solution, created a campaign. So I would say like networking is really about like listening, and if you have an inventory of what people are passionate and what their pain points are, it's easier to create solutions. So that's how I approach networking.
Practice. It takes a lot of practice. And don't feel discouraged if you feel like you sucked at it on the first one or the second or the third or the fourth.
Or the 100.
Or the 100, yes. Because you never know. Maybe you're at the 100th networking that you still suck and someone from your first networking event calls you. Because it happens. But yes, listen. That's the biggie. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Listen a lot.
I actually learned that the hard way. I love to talk. Like, I'm actually quite some taking turns right now. But that was the one thing that my first networking events, I used to think that I need to tell them about me, what I want, like what my ideas are. And then somebody actually, like a mentor, pulled me aside and he was giving me feedback on that. He's like, it's like, give them like the chance so they want to know about you, because like they're walking away, they know everything about you, like you just dump all your ideas. So I took that in consideration, and it was the next few times, right, what I tried to do was like, I hate asking people, who do you work for? That was, I stay away from that. I'm like, hey, why are you here today? That's how I open the, because I want to say, why are you here today? So that way I know that maybe they're here to network, they're here to, because they have to. Sometimes people attend networking events because it's part of their job and they don't want to be there. And I've actually had people tell me, I don't want to be here. I'm like, oh, so I try to find some humor into it, right? I'm like, oh, how's the bar or something, right? So, but I think the biggest lesson for me, and I think that's one thing that we can all agree on, is listening to someone. So when I first talk to someone and say, why are you here? And then obviously they tell me, I say, oh, are you obviously with so many people moving to Seattle? I'm like, are you from the area? How long have you been in the area? And then I try to stick to like maybe 5 questions where they're like, wait, what about you? And I'm like, oh, well, now that you ask, I can tell you about me. And obviously I try to limit it to, this is what I do on a day-to-day, and this is what my interests are. And obviously the one thing though, I know a lot of younger students that actually been doing, can I get your business card? Can I add you on LinkedIn? And I'm like, how about, and if we're gonna do that, like, if you really wanna go ahead and connect with someone, try to get, let's say I just fell in love with Teresa and we just met. Hey, you know what, do you have time for coffee? Can we meet again? Like, it's like sales, get a follow-up, with them. Don't just get their information, go at them on LinkedIn because we all have enough contacts. So it's like actually take the initiative to say, you know what, I think you, and I say that, like, I think you're fascinating, I think you're great, I would love to connect with you. Again, when will it be a good time to have coffee? People love that, I know I love it, and sometimes we don't always have time, so let them know, hey, my schedule is pretty busy for the next 2 weeks, but let's get something on the calendar. And I always try to get things on the calendar because everything marketing, sales, like try to sell yourself, and it works out really great, and at that time you can talk some more.
I think with my experience, when I first started networking, I was not very good at it. But I did learn that, not going with the idea that I'm going to go to this network event to get a job. No, it's more like I'm going to go to this network event to build relationships, practice my elevator speech. And so that's how I started practicing. And also, I agree, asking not only your coworkers, but people out there who you want them to be your mentors for coffee, and learning from them, asking them questions, how did they get there, why did they choose this career, things like that. So.
And the key is the follow-up, right? So like I can tell you, out of probably 100 people that I meet, maybe 2 will actually complete on the follow-up.
Yeah.
So be those 2 people, don't be the other 98, right? And that just makes you stand out, right? Because like you say you're gonna follow up and you're following, right? So close the loop.
Yeah, so I have a question. So I'm also have a very strong background in sort of the arts, more traditional sort of illustrative kind of stuff, and a little bit of music as well. I just started getting back into it. How would you sort of market those for yourself? Like say you're applying to a few production design jobs. How would you sort of accentuate that sort of background and still look professional?
So in my case, I was actually a struggle because when I got into the School of Art, you have to have a portfolio. And I have my portfolio online and everything. So I actually got my first domain, I don't know, sometimes 2006 or something. So it was just like my photos and everything, but then people started asking me, hey, do you have a business for your website? I'm like, well, I'm not a business yet. So what I tried to do, because I noticed that at the time, and even right now, a lot of people do business with people. So we have to remember that. So people are not gonna do business with, just because you work for a company, they're gonna do business with Teresa, they're gonna do business with us because it's the person. So what I started doing for me, especially how to incorporate my arts, was I started a blog. And then I started blogging, and so from there, especially for art, you have to have your artist statement, your resume, your portfolio. So I was very, I've had mixed feedback from some people saying you should separate them, and I've had great feedback from people saying, I love the fact that I can see your art and your marketing skills in the same place. So I think finding what works for you, because I think that's making sure that you're gonna get feedback from different people. Take the best from what works for you, and then package it, because you're selling yourself, right? So package it the way that you can feel more comfortable presenting it, because at the end of the day, you can listen to a lot of people tell you have to have your website, have to have your presentation, but if you go into a meeting and you're getting nervous because you have all this, you kind of did what somebody else told you to do, and you don't feel comfortable, you don't feel that in that website people know enough about you, or maybe it's not too personal, then you're making it harder for yourself. So I think finding the happy balance between your art and your business, and at the end of the day, you're a brand. So you're not. There's a difference between being a public figure, right? It's being a brand, and people will do business with you because they like you, or they think there's something amazing about you.
And I would add, because I'm a musician, I have actually my own band, a salsa band,
which
We
is
have-
amazing,
Thank you.
by the way.
You
She
can dance
starts
all night
singing.
away.
Yeah.
And we have the video company, right? So sometimes you have to decide which one I'm gonna promote here and here. And sometimes it happens that when you're promoting this one, hey, this one fits too. So don't be afraid of just promoting one and thinking that, oh my gosh, I'm gonna leave this one aside, but I really love this one. Sometimes they blend together without you even noticing it.
Thank you.
I think my 2 things for you that I would offer is it's much better to focus your efforts in pitching yourself to the company that you love rather than like trying to submit it to 20 places where you want to work for. So when I get all the resumes, like I can immediately tell who really wants to work at our agency, right? Because they've done their homework, right? They've customized and tailored their resume to what we do, they really understand us, right? So that would be one thing, like, find who you align the best with and put your eggs in that basket, right? And if it doesn't work out, put your eggs in the next basket, right? But don't like mass apply, because then it's like you're one more in the batch, right? And then the second thing I would say is look on LinkedIn, like who works at that agency that you're really passionate about, and reach out to that person, right? And say, hey, I would like to invite you for a coffee, and because be intentional about the invitation, right? But that way, when you are interviewing next time, you already have a relationship. They know you, like you're going in warm, right, to that interview. And then don't be afraid to ask, hey, did I miss anything? Or is there any concern that you have about me, right? Sometimes we don't want to hear what we're doing wrong, but I can tell you it's so valuable for you to get that from them. And also, when I get that asked that question, I'm like, wow, that's an amazing candidate, right? Like open to constructive feedback and collaboration, right? So I would offer that for your consideration.
And I think, having your portfolio, but also once you present it, as well as, or tell them that your goals, like, this is what I have, but this is my other goals as well, and also like gives them an idea of like career development if the company has that, if that's for you as well.
And so kind of just to wrap it up,
Yeah.
so if you can go back in time, what would you give yourself, so before you started your career, what piece of advice would you give yourself going into the career and knowing what you know now?
I would tell myself that everything's going to be okay, because I was sitting in those seats too, and I was thinking, I need to find an internship, I need to find a job. It was my senior year. But being involved in Alpha, Unidas, with any other organization on campus, creating a portfolio, showing, when you start interviewing, showing them that you're really interested in this company, and you have these skills, and you want to continue building those skills. So I think, attend these network events, practice your elevator speech, and ask people for coffee or something.
Oh. I'm so old that I have to think. I have actually always thought that I don't regret anything in my life, even all the mistakes that I have made, because I've learned from them. I'm sorry for saying it like this, but scared shit. Like really, when I had to network, especially because maybe you can notice English is my second language. I didn't know how to sell myself, what kind of language I needed to use. But I had to, if I needed to pay my rent and my bills and my food and I wanted to travel, so hey, I need money, right? So I guess I can only tell you just, I guess I would say to myself, if you are scared, it's a good sign. It's a good sign that you're scared, because then that means that you're dreaming high. But don't freeze over that fear. Don't let it freeze you, because the only way that you're gonna be able to accomplish what you want is by practicing, you have to apply yourself. You really have to be responsible, and you have to love yourself a lot. Really, take care of yourselves, and do everything that you think that it might be crazy. It probably is not. Believe me. Just go ahead and do it. I'm serious.
Wow, actually been thinking about that like lately though. I still don't know the entire answer, but if I could go back, especially when I was in college, the one thing that I know I will do is be more intentional with everything that I was being involved. I mean, when you're in college, that you want to be involved in every organization, take advantage of every networking opportunity, but the biggest thing is that you're going to burn out. And sometimes you're just going just for the sake of being there because you think it's an opportunity. It's okay to say no to networking events. It's okay to say no to certain things, but be very intentional in knowing what do you want. Like making sure that when you are going, I think for me, one of the biggest things that helped me the most was I was a similar scenario, but I was in the School of Art. I had my first mentor actually. He came to give a presentation. I've never seen a Latino photographer in the School of Art. It was always like, I've never seen a person of color coming in. So I was like, oh my God, Latino. And I actually approached him after the panel. And I was like, you know what? Like, I love your work. I want to learn more about it. Can I have coffee with you? And I said, I need a mentor. I need someone and he just laughed. He's like, kid, you got some balls. And I was like, well, yeah. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I need someone to help me, right? And from that, actually, the one thing that obviously he guided me, he was amazing. But I know I think I should have done that more with multiple people. So making sure that you have more than one mentor, making sure that you have a woman mentor, a man mentor, people from different backgrounds, because that is the only way that you're going to just grow more, right? So be very intentional with the people that you're surrounding yourself with. I know that your friends is one thing, and we all love our friends, but maybe there's your circle of friends, and then there's that other circle where, like, the people that are going to show you something, that you're going to learn something from them. And always making sure that, I know my dad always told me, make sure that you're not always the smartest person in the room. Because if you think you're the smartest person in the room, then you have an issue. Make sure that people are going to challenge your ideas. And learn to take the criticism though, because you're not always right. And I think when we're younger, we think I thought I knew it all. I was like, what do you mean I'm wrong? No, I'm not wrong. And I was like, oh wait, I was really, really wrong. And that was really wrong with me for acting that way. So I think learning to be humble too, that was the one thing that if I could go back, I'm like, okay, eat a little bit of humble pie and making sure that you're, being intentional and asking for the right help. And really just don't be afraid to ask for help. I know that was my biggest mistake when I was in college. I was too proud to ask for help, and just trust me, like if you're going through it, somebody else went through it already.
I will leave you with two things that I've learned through my career. The first one is to know your own value and your worth. So, I used to always think like, as a person of color, someone who's Asian and Latina and now American, right? It's like, where do I fit in, right? And just never feeling like I fit in, always feeling I'm different. Or if I would just contribute, like people would not understand where I'm coming from. And then I would be like, was I wrong, right? And all that self-doubt. So I think the moment I said, hey, this is what I have to offer, and what I have to offer is valuable and it's worth it, it definitely changed how I contributed in my career. And then the second thing that really catapulted my career to the next level was thinking of myself in function of how can I make others successful. So really taking myself out of the equation and seeing how I can be of service for others to be successful. And that way I'm bringing value to others, and people love to keep other people that bring value to them, right? So that made a huge difference for me. So yeah, those were two things that definitely catapulted my career throughout the times.
Thank you. Do you want to join me on giving a round of applause?
Melody's actually looking for an intern to join her team, so go network with her.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for being here. And again, can we give them one more round of applause? So next up, we do have the winner